Give me a moment.
Folks, it is 30 seconds to the time to start, so I started the recording 30 seconds early. We announced that.
Yeah, you have to announce everything now.
Welcome, Jeremy.
Hi, Phil. Thanks for having me tonight.
Yeah, I think it's going to be more important the next meeting, but that's okay. We're about a few days away from it. I think you saw the notes going back and forth.
Yeah. Yeah, I just
Fine.
I wanted to, if the committee would have kind of preface the discussion and talk a little bit about our approach and what you can expect once you have a number dialed in from us, or once I have a number dialed in from you.
Yeah. The goal for Mike is still the 11-8, but we'll go from there. Speaking of Mike, there's another Mike. Okay. I think it is now 6:30. So we can officially start the meeting. We are recording the meeting. Script's on. We have Mike Goddard and Jeremy. And Dave will not make it this evening. He has a personal matter. Alana's she's off doing some things at school. Mike, you're the full-fledged replacement anyway. Mike Goddard.
Yep.
Okay.
I am.
So I think we're probably going to start with the smaller group tonight. There's nothing we need to vote on that I'm aware of, so I think we can just kind of proceed through this. I sent out a packet to you electronically. We have that packet in front of us as well. And as we go through this, before we get started, has everyone reviewed Peg's minutes that she distributed?
Yep.
I don't think we're.
Mike, the only address I had for you was at your law firm. I didn't have
No, that's the same.
it's not you?
That's me.
Peg, your minutes we're going to approve next meeting. We don't have a quorum.
Oh, okay, that's fine with me. I just figured I wanted to let you know that was the only address that I had on. If you would like to give me a different one, it's no problem.
No.
Okay,
That will do.
all righty.
So Peg, we're going to defer your minutes till next week.
Sure.
To give you an update, I received a communication with Mike Petrovic and our architect firm. The estimating company who does all the detailed costing will be done on the 18th. But I thought, and he's still driving them and their commitment to try to get to an 11-8 number that we talked. And their design will be reflect that number at least, if not, that's the number they're shooting. I'm not going to stress that number until we see the cost because I want to see that piece from the cost estimating company. But we'll have that on the 18th and we'll probably call a meeting on the 18th. We'll reflect on that when we do the schedule of upcoming events. And then the other activities that we're doing is that Hagen Communications team have been working diligently putting an analysis of use so that can be plugged into the plans that were presented and then talk about utilization of each room. We have current and future. I think I sent that packet out as well. In the minutes, there's a location identifier. And here's the draft version of all the functions and activities that go in each room. We need to do analysis with that for the next week and refine it over the next week. I hope by the end of, by our next meeting, we could have a summary and snapshot with it. Great work by the team, Amy and company. But it really addresses use where it also has things that are out of plan because of the reduction.
Phil, a question on that document. One, it's great looking at it. Two, could we add a couple things to it, or at least one thing?
Would you like?
And that is expected headcount associated with those different programs. Because it's sort of if you could send that in a spreadsheet format, that'd be great. Because I started to look at it more closely, and I think it's going to give it most of the information we'd want. So you sort of got a view of capacity hours, so the number of hours available for a given location, and then you've identified all the programs and the number of hours per week, month, semi-annual, what have you, which is great. And then the other thing to throw in there would be head count associated with each of those events or expected. That way you can right size the room peg. So if you're in, location A, which is half the multipurpose room, and that can house 35 people or whatever the number is, you can demonstrate that that program needs to be held in a space that big. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think the team's gonna get together, hopefully shortly this week again, and they can work on that element. And again, we're using, the experts down at the center, Janet, Peg, and Amy, to consolidate. Yeah, I can send this out in Excel form. Mike, it just, since it was drafted, the team wanted to work over it one more time, I sent it out as a PDF.
That's fine. And if anybody wants any help, happy to sit down with folks, because I think you want to demonstrate the capacity of the room in terms of hours and frequency of events. You know what I mean? When you think about a room, if it was if the senior center opened 40 hours a week, each room would have 40 hours of capacity. Does that make sense? So there's a lens there we'd probably want to overlay on the information that I see on the PDF, which I think is a great start.
Yeah, Karen did this on the spreadsheet. She took all our numbers and put them on that. She did a good job.
Okay, so the work in progress, I think there's good effort there. And from Mike's standpoint, as we begin to communicate in the open forums and meetings and to the select board, I want to see his software that overlays functional activities in the rooms. He said he had something. I want to see what that looks like. But if nothing else, we have data that we can format and structure and articulate. The future use of the head count will be interesting because we'll have to do projection because some of the programs are new. Some haven't been run before. So we'll look at history. Some of the capacity right now, we reflects that we can't hold the number we want to. And we haven't had a rejection list of, how many people didn't show up because they couldn't show up. But we'll work on it. We have some experts.
And Phil, a forecast is just that. We're going to look to have a capacity of this many people in these types of sessions. There's no way you can, at this point, the proof will be in the pudding in the future. But if that's the intent, that's what we go with.
Yeah. Okay. We can take anything else on that sheet, Mike, that you could think of, or Jeremy?
I mean, I think that's from what I saw. It has the base data we need to do what we talked about in the last meeting, Phil.
We want to make sure we got that. And that was a good point, Mike. So the team's going to continue to work on that. And then hopefully, as I said, I'm going to target the meeting for the 18th and have Mike present the numbers and this, so that we all have our numbers. The reason I'm using the 18th is I'd like to begin the town information pieces starting the end of September. And after talking to Ellen, she suggested the 24th, which is the following Tuesday, as the best time to do a meeting for an open forum. We can build all the presentation decks, a lot of them before that, over the next week and a half, and then fill in the blanks with the numbers and the formalized slides and presentations that Mike will be giving us. Okay.
And Phil, based on the location identifier PDF that the floor plan, the design has subtly changed. Agreed? Like
Yeah.
Mike's working that to meet the number. Is that right?
Yeah, it's going to subtly change. We're thinking we have the same room. We may lose a room, but we don't know. We were shooting. His message was to shoot for the 9,800 square feet, which is roughly what this location data shows.
Yep.
So it's even smaller?
No,
Then the last time we were talking?
no, this is big. Well, I don't know.
It was almost 10,000 the last time we talked, right? It was almost 10,000 square feet. That's what I thought too.
I'll go to the bank when I see the detailed estimate from the estimating company. So knows what the construction cost size is, the building, but the goal is to achieve this last presentation that Mike gave.
I don't think the square footage changed drastically. I think he moved some of the rooms around. So like the game room flipped sides and the food pantry was adjusted somehow. But
Okay.
I think
Yeah.
the general footprint was the same.
I think, yeah, since our last meeting, yeah. Okay, Jeremy, since we don't have the final number, I don't know if you want to reflect on the process you're using, your thought pattern, or you want to wait until the 18th?
Yeah, surely. I won't go over specifics. I'll just talk kind of approach and framing.
Okay.
So previously, what was communicated to taxpayers on a $13.2 million issuance keyed off of what debt service was in fiscal 2024 and said, some debt is going to fall off after that. Stuff matures and we owe less on other projects. And then we layer the senior center on top of that. And it showed a taxpayer impact of the net impact between, debt was here and it fell down and now senior center's up here. And it just showed that little difference on the top. Because of timing, and now that debt has rolled off in fiscal 25 and we haven't backfilled that with this exemption or anything else, the analysis really depends on what you use as your baseline. So prior, we were using fiscal 2024 as a baseline. But now if we continue to use that as a baseline, we're actually showing decreases in taxpayer impact because we're talking about a net rather than a gross. So how it was presented before is, not how I think about it. I think about it as a gross impact, right? The cost of this senior center is not relative to what debt rolls off. The cost of this senior center is the cost of this senior and community center. So what we were looking at before was roughly $670,000 or $680,000 worth of debt service per year. And now moving this down to a $11.8 million issuance, but with some higher expectations for interest rate costs, we're looking at probably $620,000 to $650,000 per year. So a considerable savings of tens of thousands of dollars per year over the life of a 30-year issuance. But the way in which we frame this to taxpayers, I need to talk with our financial advisors a little bit more because of the timing, the sequence, and the way in which it was presented the first time. Doing an apples to apples this time will present what I think is some disingenuous comparisons. So I just wanted the committee to be aware that you're going to get a couple of different perspectives from me. And the way in which the independent ballot question committee takes that information and runs with it is their own prerogative and nothing that a town committee or my office can do with it. But I just want to make sure that I'm presenting you with kind of fair, equitable, and contextualized information on what a taxpayer impact will look like. So the very short answer, and I tried to make that in the weeds and technical, but the very short answer is that yes, an $11.8 million project costs less to the taxpayer than a $13.2 million project. But in order to just take the document that was presented in May and now take a new document and present it in November, because the cadence of fiscal years and debt service and timing and short-term debt is sensitive. It's a snapshot in time. We cannot do an apples to apples comparison. So I'm still trying to puzzle through it, but I want to let the committee know.
Now, Jeremy, I think we went over roughly the schedule. If approved in November, but by the end of the year with OPM, contract awarded by middle of the end of spring. And then we'd be looking to break ground next year after we find and award a contract. And so do you have enough information from the last meeting that Dave and I had with you to map the borrowing to short-term and long-term?
Yeah, can I share a screen with you?
Sure.
All right, can everyone see this PDF?
Yes.
The type is kind
Yeah.
of small.
Yeah.
That's much more helpful. Thank you.
So this shows, of course, a bond anticipation note in May of 2025. And what a bond anticipation note says is we are going to have some costs. So I care about fiscal year. It's the treasurer's issue, and professional treasurers like the one we have and the one we hope to have. We'll figure this out, and it's part of the job. But I just care about fiscal year, how much money is going to be out the door by June 30th. So, and then we need to be able to have enough cash in the bank to pay our bills through the next year. So if we look at a bond anticipation note in May, that gets us through most of design, OPM and design and all of that. And then the following May, we issue another bond anticipation note because we don't actually know what the overall end of the project is going to cost. And we don't want to overborrow long-term for money that is just going to sit in our bank account. We're going to pay a higher interest than we get on it by statutory regulation, and then pay it back. So we issue the short-term debt, and then we take it out, so to speak, with the long-term debt in May of 2027. And this is all assuming a similar interest rate environment, quarter point between 25 basis points between May of 25 and May of 27. It's super speculative, and the sensitivity to interest rates, I wouldn't put a lot of stock in. So the analysis in the May taxpayer impact was with 3.5%, and that's essentially what's assumed here. So I think I have enough of a cadence and a cash flow understanding to be able to develop this. So if I go here, so you can see the gray is outstanding debt, and then the green is the principal, I believe. Sorry. Yeah, the green's the principal. So on the new debt. So you can see in fiscal 2025, our debt service, I point to the screen as if you can see what I'm pointing at. The debt service in fiscal 2025, which is right here, really falls down. So the taxpayer impact compared to where we were in 24, it's stuff continues to fall off. So as we look at a 5-year, which is what we talked about before, the marginal taxpayer impact is just that, it's marginal. It's not really to be felt. But if we key off of fiscal 2025, which is kind of how we did this analysis, but 1 year later, the taxpayer impact, you would feel the whole of the issuance. So it's how we kind of want to frame it to taxpayers. I think framing it as not relative to the gray, which is existing debt, but instead absolute to the green and the red, which is senior center principal, senior center interest. This is paying down a ban, by the way. That's why the principal is so big here. And then the principal slowly gets larger. I think is a more straightforward way to talk about it. But I will present both ways. And then, like I said, the independent ballot committee can take that how they want.
Jeremy, a question on FY25 and the drop off there. So we went back and forth last spring to on warrant articles to capture the debt that's rolling off so that we don't see this drop off you see there. And we decided to keep it simple, just go with the senior center. So there's only one question and one vote, and people won't get confused, and that it'll take care of itself type of thing. So it didn't pass. And now we see this drop off. My understanding, or what some discussion was had, that we might be able to reclaim that debt and fill in that gap like one time at possibly fall STM. Can we still capture that debt for a capital project, thereby minimizing we were trying to minimize the up and down of the taxpayer's tax bill. You know what I mean? Yeah,
Totally understand. So special town meeting is November 18th. And as I understand it, the ballot question deadline was August 7th. So to get something on a ballot, we can't do. So then the ballot question, there would either need to be a special election or push it to the spring. And then there is tax bills need to be mailed for the second half of the year by, the collector by December 31st. So we would have to be able to issue debt and know the fiscal 2025 impact, which really would essentially only be interest in the spring. And then it would be interest and principal in the fall, which would be fiscal 2026. So I guess the short answer is that it's possible, but not
Not
practicable.
probable. Right.
Yeah. And then the longer answer is like there's a way to figure it out, but I think there would be a lot of maneuvering, and you know, I haven't done something like that before, and I would be concerned about the timing and to be able to not have people's tax bills unnecessarily spike in the second half because
I wasn't overly concerned with a year reprieve on the tax bill as long as we explain the comparative and, as we go forward with this project. So it would have been simpler had we not have that drop off, but the fact that to drop off, that's a reprieve in my mind, and we're just moving ahead, and our comparative should be to 24 as it was last time. And just explain that they get a 1 year lesser tax bill. You know what I mean?
yeah, I'm just concerned with a narrative that says, the marginal tax rate increase is just this little sliver above the orange line in 26, because the marginal tax rate increase is actually, from this orange line in taxpayers' views is down here at 25.
Yeah, I think the level debt funding though, keeping our debt level at that 1.1 or whatever that green line is.
Yep.
That's our target, and we're taking on more debt to maintain our level debt service so that we are, smoothing things out in future years, et cetera. I think there's a lot of ways we can speak to it.
I think keeping debt at, that percentage of a general fund appropriate or general fund expenditure is a good idea. And I don't think that it's in the town's best interest to let debt service drop off that low. In total agreement with you. One, from a taxpayer impacts situation, and that like folks don't like seeing their tax bills yo-yo, but also because an absence of debt means an absence of investment in our long-term infrastructure, and it means we have deferred maintenance and all sorts of things that are kind of detrimental to our long-term health from a physical plant point of view. So I am in total agreement that we should be aiming to keep our debt level. Keep our debt service level as a percentage of our general fund expenditures, which means increasing slightly each year.
As we move forward, Jeremy and Mike, it'd be good to have you be able to speak to this when we have our open forums and things like that, and also at the town meeting.
Yeah,
Yep.
I want to make sure I'm really kind of dispassionate about this, that I'm just telling you what the chart says.
Just the facts.
Yeah, just the facts, man. I got it.
Just the facts, man. And then the independent committee can spin it the way it wants, but I think I'd rather just stay with the facts, but in line with what you do. Okay. Thank you. That gives us some insight. It's going to be hard to explain.
Yeah, and I think the takeaway is an $11.2 million or an $11.8 million project cost the taxpayer less than a $13.2 million project, and quantifying that is a sense of how you want to frame it. But generally, it's a cheaper project to the taxpayer.
Okay.
So if you want to frame it as just generally, 11.8 over 13.2, it's, however much percent smaller than prior.
Good point. Keep it simple. Thanks for that, though, Jeremy. It gives me an idea where we're at. Now, I'm going to jump around on the calendar and schedule. I'm going to look at critical dates first, then we'll go back to communication. With that being said, and we get the information and the actual cost and the final number on the 18th from the architect and the estimator, does that give you enough time to get that put together for the 24th, which I'm projecting to have an information meeting? It's less than a week. It's like 5 or 6 days.
Yeah, now that we have the timing built, and essentially our assumptions, if we change the par amount a little bit, it would kind of change the back end number, which isn't really part of the taxpayer analysis, where the taxpayer impact analysis. We're not talking about the back end. We're talking about the front end relative to fiscal 2024. So if it's 11.689 or 11.912 or something, that's not going to change the indicators that we're looking at. We're looking more on the short term.
Okay, but what I would be planning for is, and talking to Ellen, we can book the town hall for the 24th. And I'd like to begin our first meeting that talks about the building, the layout, the costs, what we've changed, what we've eliminated, and solicit input from the people, see get the questions and see if we can answer. And I think you'd be an important part of that to talk about. Yeah, it is, bottom line is 11.8 is less than 13.2.
Yeah, I am at a conference on the 24th and unavailable to attend.
Yep. Are you gone that week or just?
I am gone the 21st, which is a Saturday, through the 25th. I come back on a Wednesday.
I'll speak with Ellen to see potentially. It'd be good to have you get engaged with this because I think it'd be a good opportunity for you.
Yeah,
Hopefully,
certainly. And I'd like to. Timing isn't perfect. This is kind of a one-off for me, but yeah. So in whatever ways I can assist and participate, I'd be glad to.
okay. And if we look at the, we'll be, from a messaging standpoint, we'll be finalizing through next week and the following week, up until the 24th. We may want to move that because of you, Jeremy. I think it's important there. The next big thing we would have is various communications that will be going. Peg and her team and the rest of the group, we're looking at what we need to do for communications. But Jeremy, right around the same time, I'd like to bring up the capability to put the plan, the spec, the cost, and frequently asked questions up on the website.
Mhm.
So if you can make sure that link's available, or how, give us guidance on how to do that. I envision us sending you PDF documents or whatever documents you need.
Yeah,
And-
so long as you provide me with the documents, and I think it'll be good to keep the spring 2024 documents live and on the website, and people can kind of click back and forth between them and see kind of what the differences are. So whatever you provide with me, wherever you provide to me, I can make sure is stood up on the website, and then I can, as we add new documents, we can highlight it on the, homepage, those like 4 or 5 things that cycle through. We can say, check out the new, senior and community center, updates.
And as we stated before, it'll just be the factual data about the project, no promotional stuff.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not centered around a ballot question at all. It's centered around, the town planning for its future and the reasonable administrative steps to get there.
Yeah, okay. And then there's, I've noticed I will be communicating, because of early balloting, there'll be communications to the townspeople in early October from the committee, and then preparing for early voting. And then I suspect we're going to have another town hall information meeting right before the November election. Right now we're projecting, according to Ellen, 10/29 would be good because it's an extra week. There's no meeting scheduled. So that week we'll probably do another information meeting. So that packet's in your electronic mail and in your handout. So you have that in both ways.
And just to be conscious of dates as well, and maybe it was in your, so the special town meeting warrant closes on October 17th. So we would just need some language that I can run with council to make sure that something gets added to the special town meeting warrant. Not make sure, of course, this is at the forefront of all of our minds, and it wouldn't get overlooked, but if I can get a submission from this committee that I can take to council, we can ensure that we're tight on the language before the 17th.
That was October 17th.
Yeah, so the warrant closes then. We have like the ability to change language to make it legally permissible and all that after that. but there's no reason we need to run up against that deadline if we have all the information ahead of time.
Yeah, I think we will. I'm currently looking to finalize that by 9:30.
Great.
Which would be to you, and then you can massage that for a few weeks with the legal or whatever else we need to do. So our goal would be to get it to the select board, nominally whatever meeting happens that week of 9:30. For the first cut. Okay. So this will be a busy time, a lot of communications. We'll be doing we're going to go, my personal plan is this committee will be to go to other committees and just tell them what we're doing. Factual data. And see if they have any questions or concerns. I don't think that's promoting the center. I think it's just inter committee discussion. I think that's okay, isn't it, Jeremy?
Yeah, anything that is us sort of planning for the passage or the not passage, right? One way or the other. What do we do if this passes? What do we do if this doesn't pass? Who does that impact and how? And what are our steps from there as a town, whether it's professional government or volunteer commissions or elected commissions? That's all entirely permissible and is actually the prudent way for us to act, right? If I as a town administrator said, until the ballot question passes, that's not a great way to run a government. We wouldn't know what we were going to do on November 6th or November 19th, or after town meeting. So all of that is not only permissible but responsible. But going to another commission and saying, how do we get people to vote for this or how do we get people to vote against this is not permissible. So just think of the question rather than it being a debt exclusion question. Think of it as a competitive election question. And could I, in my capacity in the town, go and say, please vote for candidate X and not candidate Y? Think of the ballot question as in the same framing. But if the question is, here's how we plan for candidate X, here's how we plan for candidate Y, that's, again, totally reasonable. So yeah, you talking with other commission members and saying, here's what we do afterwards, or here's how we're envisioning the center and how you fit into it. I think that's totally reasonable.
Now, is it appropriate for me to ask for their support? That would not be appropriate based on that definition.
Right. Yeah. You wouldn't be able to, a commission cannot, a public body using town resources, which is a pretty broad aspect, a pretty broad interpretation, can't say, I support this or not. Elected officials individually in their own capacity can absolutely and should say, how they feel on any issue whatsoever, including, election issues. But folks serving in a town capacity as either volunteers or professional staff cannot, in their role as a member of town government, advocate one way or the other.
So let me ask a question, Jeremy, to that. So this committee is been put together to put forward a design, and clearly it's in favor of getting this building established. If there's a meeting with FinCom, another appointed board, I would expect that this committee would in fact be looking to, quote, sell the project. I mean, FinCom ultimately has to vote and provide a up or down in terms of their support of the spend. So, I think that's fine, but given how you describe it, one might say, well, this committee cannot influence another board to go one way or the other. But in fact, we would be meeting with FinCom with a positive sort of description of what this project's all about. They would be ultimately accountable to make their own minds up, but you know what I mean?
Yeah, I get that it's precarious and kind of gray, and I think communities all over face this sort of question, right? But for you all as individuals, your desire to have this project come to fruition and be successful, you would not be here. Right. So it's kind of in your nature, or in the genesis of this committee, that you want the ballot question to pass. I just caution you to take a wide berth, to to be deferential to neutrality in it.
Mhm.
It's not something I have great experience with. So my reaction is to say, be cautious and be careful. But I think you going to this group going to FinCom and saying, this is the project, this is the need,
Yep.
demonstrated by X, Y, and Z, and this is why we're here. This is what it will
Right.
cost. This is the taxpayer impact, and here's how it fits into the larger town's debt structure. Is the
So
reason this committee
objective fact,
exists.
keep it objective. Here are the facts. No, FinCom, you get to talk amongst yourselves.
And yeah, exactly. And what you can't say to FinCom is, and here's why I think you should go out and, hold signs
Right.
saying vote yes,
Right.
vote no. So take like I said, I'm, as the professional representative, taking a dispassionate approach. I think
Yep.
This committee is kind of one level removed from that because of the rationale of its forming.
Mhm.
But I still think I would take a wide berth around discussions of the actual ballot question.
Right.
So discussions around the need for the center, discussions around what the center would provide, I think are fair game and excellent. Discussions around,
The fiscal viability, I think, would be fair, but not, you know what I mean? But we don't even bring up the election, is what I'm hearing.
yeah, certainly.
Okay.
I think
Yes.
that's a good clarifying question.
And I think the other thing, Jeremy, though, typically at the town meetings, we'd ask for the board, the select board behind this initiative. So we want them to voice in that they support or non-support, at least traditionally. We also do that with the FinCom at town meetings. Or you support this financially or not.
Yep.
That's kind of like a,
Yeah, that's definitely their roles, right? The select board is a role of elected, political entities who get to voice their support one way or the other. Yeah,
Okay.
that's reasonable and expected.
and then FinCom's similar to that because they're the financial arm.
Yeah, they get to say, we, in our opinion, think this is a good financial investment, so to speak, for the town, and something that I think we should support or not support. In the same way that they get to do that on general fund and budget issues writ large, that carries over to ballot question stuff as well.
Okay. Any other questions?
Sorry to be a bit dour in my first appearance with this committee, but that's
No,
trying to contextualize.
No, Jeremy, you're doing fine, excellent. Other than the fact that we're gonna have a very busy few weeks getting this pulled together. And then I have no other new business. Does anybody have any new business or comments? No? Okay,
Are you talking about just in general, or are you talking about what he's talking about?
in general.
Well, yeah, I do. I noticed that Karen has been taking fire on her page.
Mhm.
Because she's posting the letters, the did you know letters and things like that. She's getting a lot of flack from it. I don't know whether you or Dave or one of you wants her to give you some of those questions that she rightly so does not feel she should be answering. You're not in the position where you should be making those answers. I'm going to use for an example, somebody said, maybe you and the fire station should switch. Have the senior center go over to the fire station and why haven't you considered that and have the fire station take over the senior center? She's getting a lot of, you're getting kind of a lot of the negative. And no means no. What is it about no meaning no? You don't seem to understand. So I don't know whether you and Dave want to do those questions or what. I want to get her settled on that.
I think, Karen, you don't need to respond. My daughter told me once before when we started this campaign, don't jump in the fray because there are people who just complain. And as they use the expression, bitch about things on the internet. And it's the way they vent. Some of them are valid questions. And it's good to respond to them. Dave and I could do it.
All right, then that's.
But I mean, if there's no brainers, Karen, continue as you are.
Yeah.
The ones that are conflicting,
Mhm.
some of them aren't worth the response.
Right, I know that.
And I'm not gonna,
So the town has been town general government's been a subject of some as well. And my general advice is in your official capacity as a committee to not engage with kind of unofficial feedback, so to speak. So if folks come to this commission and want to make public comment and to engage in the process through the kind of pre-approved, so to speak, channels, really engage that. So if my advice would be, if you as committee members were to engage with members of the public on a forum, it would be to encourage them to come to something like this rather than to engage in a private forum where your commission and private lives are kind of blurred. If you can keep those distinct, that would be my approach.
I know, I would love them to come to meetings. I think we tried to invite people last time to meetings, but they typically won't show up. But if they do, that's fine as well. But that's good advice, though, Jerry.
I have a question for you, Jeremy, too. I saw the message that you sent out about secretarial notes and things. What is it I'm supposed to attach to my notes? You said something about any papers that were handed out. Do you mean?
Yeah. So in your
beyond the
minute, in your
agenda?
minutes. So in your minutes tonight, so you'll take minutes and say, these commission members were present, joined by the town administrator, and here's what we discussed, and blah, blah. And then just at the end, if you can say enclosures or attached or referenced or something like that, and just reference the 4 documents that Phil sent around, and then say something like, town administrator debt chart or something. So it's just whatever documents were used by the group as part of their deliberation, and there's not necessarily votes or anything like that. It's just discussion topics. So anything that you all saw should be referenced in the minutes to be able to say, here's what they saw. And you don't need to attach the documents themselves, just incorporating them by reference is sufficient.
Okay, that's good, because I haven't been doing that.
Most haven't, and we're systematically getting there and getting a little bit better. So we're having select board kind of set the tone on that. And then I'm going around individually and saying, here's some issues we've identified. Look to select board. We've corrected those. We weren't always great in the past, but we've corrected them. So you can correct them too. So thanks for your question. You are not alone.
Okay.
Any other questions, general or project related at this time? Hey, I don't know what your schedule looks like this week to get together.
I can tell you I can't make next Wednesday, so you'll have to assign someone to take the notes.
Okay.
I can't make a Wednesday night.
That's fine.
But yeah, we can discuss that after.
Yeah.
You're talking about a meeting at the,
Yeah.
meeting for some more.
Yeah, I'd just like to start to build, not only for, just general communications, but the presentation structure. Of what I'd like to be able to start to present what the presentation to the town would be. It's not a yes, no vote. It's kind of pretty much we've got it in the can from our last one. We want to modify it and just add in the new data.
And I will remind the committee there is a select board meeting on the 18th. So both Mike Goddard and I will be attending that on the 18th.
Ooh, I wasn't aware of that. I wasn't on a calendar, so I wasn't thinking. Okay. I would like to move around that. We may make it a little later. Thank you for the adjournment. It'll be tentatively 18th. We may move to the 19th, have a meeting. I do want Mike's results quicker than later. And we'll go from there. Jeremy, as soon as I get his data, I'll share that with you. This way you can put that into the blender for your analysis for impact.
Blender is a good characterization of that. I haven't used that before. I like it though.
The way you were describing how we're moving things around short term, long term, this year, next year, I figure it's a blender.
Yeah. I've said stir fry, but I think I like blender better.
Feel free. Okay, any other questions or new business? Okay. Do I have a motion to close the meeting?
Make a motion to close the meeting?
I'll second, I guess, doesn't really matter what I'm for, but we're gonna be closing the meeting tonight.
So you don't need to do a roll call then, right?
I don't think I need to roll, but I'm for them, so it doesn't matter, we can
Okay,
vote.
no problem.
I don't think, right, Jeremy?
Yeah, this wasn't a meeting.
Okay, guys, thanks for joining us. Any questions along the material we sent, just, you know how to reach us, and we'll see you either on the 18th or the 19th, depending on schedules.
If I could be earnest for about 20 seconds, this is the first time I've joined this commission, but I want to thank you all for your hard work on this. I know it's been a long process. I know it's something you're all deeply passionate about, and we're working hard on the town side to make sure that we're ready, prepared, and supporting the efforts as well. So I just want to thank the group, and thank you for having me tonight. And I think our discussions going forward can be really fruitful. So thank you all.
Very good, thank you. Okay, with that, I'm going to sign off, folks.
All right. Have a good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. I this is